Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hardcore Finance Show with Shimon and Alex. It's been a while since the two of us talked, so we thought we would take the chance and skip a guest this week and talk a little bit about the whole China FUD and the Bitcoin recent crash. So
Yeah.
let's just dive in. Hello, Shimon.
Hello, Alex. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fudtaculously. Is that a word? I don't know if that's a word, but it's okay. We'll make it a word.
It is a word given the circumstances.
Yeah, that's true. It is a word given circumstances. So, did you sell all your Bitcoin? Are you running for the hills?
Yeah, I sold everything and I bought some put options on Bitcoin. No, I'm joking.
Guys,
I
you heard it
didn't
here
sell
first.
even.
Sell put options.
No, I didn't sell even one Bitcoin. I didn't buy more. I'm holding on because I think that what's currently happening is just like very natural, and we can talk about is it good or bad, but it's definitely natural.
So, look. So let's talk a little bit about this, right? Because there was in the world of Bitcoin, maybe five phenomenon happen. One is a macro phenomenon. Four are the hits. Really, they came to the price. The macro phenomenon is everyone's talking about it. All the media, CNBC, Kramer, everyone is all about Bitcoin now, which is good, but also brings into the mainstream this asset, which even though it's been up, at 300% or whatever, it's been up before the crash and still up 150% or whatever after the crash. And people are saying, oh, crash 50%. But then let's talk about four events. One, Musk comes out and tweets about the fact that the market has been weak as it is. It's been kind of teetering.
Mhm.
Mark comes out and says energy FUD. Boom, number one. Then it was the DOJ announces that they're going after Binance. Boom, hit number two. Then the China ban for like the fourth time in the last 4 years, China's banning Bitcoin, hit number three.
Mhm.
We kind of lost you, by the way, in video
Yeah,
stream.
I'm just turned off the video.
And
Sec. I'll turn it on. 2 seconds.
yeah, and so that's hit number three. And then, uh, I think the Elon was another one. He basically tweeted and said that he's working with Doge and he wants to find a faster network. That was hit number four, and then the market just tumbled and went through all these liquidations.
Mhm.
So, let's why aren't you scared? I mean, these are serious issues, right? The fact that Bitcoin is not energy or it eats up too much energy, I mean, that's a serious issue. The fact that China is really banning Bitcoin, that's a serious issue. I mean, shouldn't we be scared right now?
So I'll give you the high level answer and then we can dive into the individual ones. But the high level answer is that I'm definitely not scared from like a 3 year from now perspective. Like just think of us listening to the conversation we're having right now, 3 years from now. I definitely think that Bitcoin will be much higher than it is today, 3 years from now. And I actually even think that it would be better than the stock market 3 years from now. Like if I had $100 today and I could put them in Bitcoin or in the stock market, I'm pretty certain that 3 years from now, Bitcoin will be higher. So that's like the high level view. Then the individual view, I have like answers to all of these. Actually, I spent a lot of today thinking about these issues that you pointed out. But before I get into like the individual answers, what do you think? How do you feel? Do you feel anxious? And do you think that the 3 years from now view is relevant?
I'm scared. I'm really scared. I'm not scared actually. So part of it is having gone through 2017 and having seen the ups and downs. And so I've always told you, and if our listeners remember, I'm going to give you a long-winded answer, but I think it's prudent, and then we can just chat.
Mm-hmm.
My thesis was always that 2020, 2021 is going to look like 2013. And the main reason is, I don't do any technical analysis. I watch a ton of technical analysis videos. I love TA personally. I think it's fascinating to see emotions manifest themselves in data.
Mm-hmm.
But just from a strategic perspective, you have a young asset in 2011, right? And 2013 is the first time that for its time, the mainstream, which was the crypto kind of nerds and the developers, came in a much bigger way than just the small cryptography community that was in Bitcoin in 28, 29, 2009, 2010, 11, and so on. So the first major wave that could move this nascent market. And it had these ups and downs, this peak and valley, double top. And why did it have a double top? People got excited, ran on, then it popped. Then people were obviously scared of what this was. Maybe this is going to go to zero, then realized, hey, there's something to this, to the tech, went up again. 2017 was very different. 2017 was for the first time it got big enough for the first wave of mainstream adoption, which is akin to the 2011 adoption for the ultra, the crypto nerds. So 2021 is very much like 2013. This is the first time real institutional money is coming in. And what actually happened in this crash, because we have on-chain analytics, is exactly what, I shouldn't say exactly, but it's very close to what my theory was. The people it sold were new whales and medium whales, right? So the whales that were kind of, what is it, like 10,000, 1,000 to 10,000 Bitcoin that these guys held. So new whales sold. They came into this market. They chased momentum. They were scared out of their position, sold at a loss at sometimes because they didn't understand the fundamentals and technology. And so if you really think about Bitcoin, you understand the fundamentals, you're not scared as much as I was disappointed and annoyed, maybe frustrated. Some of the hits came quickly, but I'll tell you three things, and I want to give you time to react about why I wasn't scared and why actually I see this as an incredible thing. So one is it wiped out all the stupid leverage out there, and we needed to wipe out the stupid leverages, Shibu bullshit, these like Doge bullshit, all these. I'm a big believer in altcoins. I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist, but there's maybe a handful of projects that are trying to do good for me. In my point of view, and then the rest of it is complete garbage. Like Rocket is a freaking cryptocurrency, Shibu, whatever the hell it is, a cryptocurrency. These are just complete scams. And you have people going in. The statistic was that 60% of leverage traders are trading at 20x or more. It's just freaking insane. It's just insane. People, you all are going to get hurt out there. People are going to get hurt. So it's good to have washed out all this leverage. I think the second thing is my conspiracy theory, allegedly, so no one come after me, please, and sue us. But my conspiracy theory is that I believe some major players are going to come in. And now that they missed the boat, I think if I'm a major player, and now I see crypto and Bitcoin specifically as an asset class, a nascent asset class that's here to stay. Ray Dalio said this, Larry Summers has said this, obviously Mark Cuban is in. I mean, all the major players, big Wall Street folks, when they get it, they get it. It's hard to unsee the matrix. And so if I'm a hedge fund or even a big corporate, and I'm thinking, okay, I want to give this thing a serious shake. I want to give this thing a stress test that a stress test that it hasn't seen in a while. Right. And I'm going to stress test the shit out of this thing to find a true bottom, a true floor, and build my way up. I want to see how it holds out when we have the most concentrated FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt aimed at Bitcoin all at the same time. China has happened in 2017 and 2013, and they haven't really changed anything. Energy, we all know that this is complete bullshit. Even Elon now, oh wow, golly, admits that, yeah, you know what, they talked to miners with Michael Saylor and everything is fine. The point is that you had article after article. Guggenheim funds came out and said it should be 26. JP Morgan came out and said that there's a flight from Bitcoin into gold, which might be in some ways. They're saying institutional interest isn't there. So it's like boom, 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 concentrated hits. And if Bitcoin, which I'm hoping it will hold this $30,000 line, holds, it's going to be the most impressive proof point of how resilient this asset is, number one, and two, how completely it didn't shake the overall markets. There was a fascinating article, Shimon, and I told you about this, that the amount that the big Bitcoin's market cap was actually bigger than some of the market cap of the 2008, 2009. This is in CNBC. Before that crisis hit, and the housing crisis took down everything, took down the banks, took down the whole system. Bitcoin just went down 56% and didn't touch anything. Exchanges didn't go down for an hour. DeFi didn't go down. Liquidity didn't go down. The tethered coins didn't go down. To his credit, Raul Paul has a great tweet about this, but this is kind of well known. Nothing went down. So this is a stress test in my mind. Bitcoin aced it, flying colors. And it's just a matter of time before this thing shoots up because there's nowhere for it to go but up. It completely passed the test. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with everything you said, except one thing. As a proud employee of a leading crypto exchange, I can't call any of these things scams. I'm also a fierce believer in the free market. So as far as I'm concerned, as long as you're not promising anything and none of these like coins are promising anything, it's not a scam and people should be allowed to put their money where they want. That being said, I only hold Bitcoin personally. Now, so I agree with everything that you said. And what's really cool is I thought several of the things that you mentioned could work together, whether in a coordinated or not in a coordinated way. But like you could have several forces, right, that like independently are acting. And I have several of my own. Some of them are similar to yours, some of them are complementary. But yeah, like it's really interesting to think about. First of all, the energy. I think basically the energy is a non-issue for a very simple reason. It's almost like a mathematical reason, right? Energies that are not renewable are just not sustainable. And so if we take a 50-year view, we're just moving towards renewable energies. And it doesn't matter what happens in the meantime. You can put taxes, you can put this or that, but like at the end, we have the technology to generate renewable energy, and Bitcoin always has a demand for energy, which is a pretty cool thing. Like I was thinking about this, as humanity, we've never had this feature of having like a constant demand of energy that's like location independent. Pretty cool. So it'll be renewable. So I don't care about like what happens in the meantime.
Can I just have 1 second?
Yeah,
Just
please.
for our audience, what Shimon said is very critical. We're not going to go into the energy debate now. We shouldn't. Location independent. Energy is lost during transmission. The reason why power plants are next to big cities is because you can transmit energy across from the middle of nowhere to a big city. Bitcoin doesn't need to be by anything, so it can use unused renewable energy, which is what it does. So energy location independent is so critical to the whole argument, which many people miss. Sorry, go ahead, please.
Yeah, no, and also like, for example, nuclear power plants, right? Like I'm a big proponent of nuclear. My father's a nuclear scientist, but I completely understand like if a city council has to vote, hey, do we have a nuclear power plant like in the suburbs here? I could see how that's politically problematic. That being said, build a nuclear power plant on a tiny island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and then mine Bitcoin with that energy, right? So energy is like a non-concern for me. Now, another thing that you said that's very interesting, and I just had a thought as you were speaking. You know what happened with GameStop, where a bunch of people saw that like funds were super leveraged on the short position, and they said if we bought enough, we'll have a short squeeze for them. So this was a long squeeze. Like people know that people are leveraged. Those things, probably leak from exchanges. Like the order book. It's not hard to like, and you mentioned on-chain analytics, but this information exists. And so basically what happened is people, like, I think 60 something percent of Binance traders had a leverage of like 25x or over or whatever. And so, yeah, like this is an opportunity to make money. Now, some people think that arbitrage is bad. Some people think that like if you go to a place that just had a hurricane and you sell water bottles for $10, you're a bad person because like, it's a very high price. Other people say you're a good person because like without you, those people would have been thirstier. And like, what's their alternative? So that's how I look at short squeezes and long squeezes. I think at the end of the day, I have no problem with someone, if you can manipulate the market by dumping a lot, please go ahead. Like, it's fine. It's called price discovery for a reason, right? It happened with every new technology. It happened with the .com. It happened with like the railroads. It happened with like the Southeast India Company. Like, every time you had a big economic thing, there was market manipulation. And so again, I don't think it's a problem. Now, the idea with Elon Musk, first of all, I don't think we should like look for specific like reasons, right? Because I think it's probably many reasons. And also there's a cascading effect where like one thing comes out. So if I was thinking, if I had some piece of FUD that I wanted to release, I see somebody else talk about it, then it makes me more likely to release it. So the fact that you said it came one after the other, it's very common, right? You know, like people have done research, like if you talk about suicide on the news, it increases the suicide rate. Like those things happen. So it's the same, like, you know, FUD, you know, gives more FUD, just like euphoria brings more euphoria. And that's why, I mean, it's so interesting that this market, because anyone can participate and it's not just a small group of people, just the swings are very wild. So yeah, I think that nothing that you said was actually problematic, and nothing that happened was actually problematic, except, and there's one thing that maybe you will disagree with me here, and this is good because for now we've been agreeing with each other for very long. For example, the stock to flow model, right? If people say, oh, like I'm gonna go very much leveraged because of the stock to flow model, and I really believe in it, or different types of technical analysis, I think it's really good that stuff happens that like hasn't happened before. I think we spoke about in previous episodes about if you have a pattern that keeps repeating itself and stuff, I think it's nice if the pattern breaks, because otherwise it just makes it look unnatural, right? You would agree with me that Bitcoin going from $1 back when it was $1 to now when it's like whatever 39,000, if it was a straight line up, it would look like so eerie that people wouldn't participate, right? Like if it's something that looks planned. And I have to say, those like repeating of cycles from the previous cycle was kind of freaking me out. And so I'm happy that we've never, you told me, right? We've never had a 50% drop for such a short period of time or something.
In a bull market.
Yeah.
That in a short time and in the bull market.
Yeah. So I'm just happy that new information is being generated, because it just shows that the past cannot really predict the future, because that would just freak me out.
Past can't predict the future. TA basically says that history rhymes and you have a lot of similarities because all of it is emotion. Even bots are written in human emotion. And so again, for me, I'm not saying like, hey, this happened, so this must happen in the same months. People do this, 20 days away from the halving, this happens, and so it's going to happen again. That's like, yeah, maybe a coincidence. But everyone, there's panic and fear. People panic sell, people panic buy, people FOMO in, people FOMO out. This is all, it's the same in every market with every asset. Some just have higher betas and higher volatility. But look, I want to go back to the energy argument again. And where do we take this one? There's a couple things here, right? One is
there even an argument? Like, I don't understand why.
Yeah, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you. Well, because people still, look, is Bitcoin mined with coal? Sure. Is coal dirty? Sure. Right. But does that mean that it's bad? When you plug in your lamp in your house, it also has coal energy, just depending on where you are. It doesn't mean that it's bad.
I really don't understand it. It's just that there was this one guy now, he wrote, I think, an opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal, and he says, if we don't ban cryptocurrencies, we'll keep getting ransomware attacks. And I'm like,
it's stupid.
I really don't see the connection. It's like saying if we don't ban cash, they will stop abducting kids, because every time they abduct kids, they want ransom in cash. Like, no, those two things are not connected. Like, if you ban cash, they're going to require ransom in something else. Like, I'm not even talking about the feasibility of it. I'm just saying it's so stupid. Like, what, you didn't have ransomware attacks before crypto? Of course you had them. Like, people would just steal. I mean, I don't know. I don't understand this whole logic of like saying, just like you said, oh, Bitcoin is mined, some of the energy is dirty. So that means we have to ban Bitcoin. I really don't understand the connection.
Yeah,
Maybe
no, I agree with you. It's lunacy and idiocy. It's like, oh well, this can be used for something bad, so ban is something bad, right? Again, I use this thing of, I don't know, the Russians beat us into space. Space can be used for bad things to launch satellites. So what do we say? Abandon and ban space, or do we say,
yeah, or like the nuclear fission could be used to build a nuclear weapon. So let's ban nuclear fission. It's like, no,
yeah,
somebody else will build the nuclear weapon. Like,
exactly? So this whole, I just want to completely destroy this whole energy thing. Just to put a couple points into it, as if everybody hasn't
I
put.
just want to say before I'll let you say what you have to say, but I don't think that you even have to address it on their level because, like, no matter what you say,
Yeah,
as long as
maybe.
they think that Bitcoin is not worth existing, and as long as they think that even 1% of Bitcoin is created by coal, then they will just argue that you should ban Bitcoin. That's why I'm saying it's not worth. But please go ahead and refute the FUD.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Maybe I'll do it really, really quickly, but just because everyone online, Nick Carter and others, and Ark Invest have done it so well, so many times. Michael Saylor, for that matter, it's just like, come on, guys. Yeah, it's like you said, it's willingful. It's like willingful abandonment of any kind of journalistic integrity or purposely writing hit pieces.
Not even that. It's not even that. It's they think that Bitcoin shouldn't exist here. Let me give you an example so you can understand how these people feel, right? Let's say I told you now, in Libya there is slavery, which is true. In Libya currently you can buy a person. Let's say I tell you, look, the people who operate this slavery, they operate on coal. So if you ban coal, you have to ban coal because then they won't be able to run the slaves. And let's say I could prove to you that, like, without coal, the slavery would end. That's it. Now I come say, no, it's not coal. It's actually like 50% coal and 50% like solar. You want the slavery to end. You don't care what
Yeah.
powers it. And so you'll grasp at even if it's 1% polluting, you would just say, that's it. It just shouldn't exist. So like I want to ban it because it's polluting. You know what I mean? It's like they
I
have a problem
do.
with Bitcoin. They don't have a problem with, like, one of these journalists that is Eric Holthaus. He put a picture of himself sitting in a hot tub in February, right? If you care about energy and about the environment and you think climate change is the most important thing, don't use a hot tub in February. It's completely unnecessary. So they have a problem with Bitcoin. They don't do it because of their environment. Anyway.
Yeah, and I guess I think, I take your point. And ironically, to your example, Bitcoin is like anti-slavery for the world. And if you dig a little bit, even a scratch beneath the surface, it's such a liberating, good, human. It is like a weapon for good. People say it, and it sounds corny and cheesy, but it is. And there's this whole like woke culture in the U.S. and the privilege culture. We are privileged to be in the US with a fairly steady currency and good systems. And we sit on these high chairs in our high castle and talk shit about Bitcoin and how speculative it is. And with this myopic US centric view that doesn't open us up to the rest of the world and third world countries where people are struggling to save some sort of wealth and fight 30-40% inflation that the governments and their central banks are creating. And we have the audacity to sit and look down upon these people and look down upon Bitcoin, which is literally the only thing that's saving their financial lives and therefore lives, giving them bread to eat. It's just, it's disgusting, honestly. Look, the other thing is, and we won't touch the energy FUD, but let's say there is energy FUD. Let's say it's true. Okay. Wouldn't the China news counteract it completely? Because all of the dirty mining that is done with Bitcoin is done in China. And so if the China is going to crack down against miners, and there was on-chain analytics, big Chinese miners were selling also. And they're going to sell their machines, let's say, and they're going to export. Mining is going to move over to the US and Europe. Isn't that good in the long run for Bitcoin? It's going to become more decentralized because while the pools, you could be anywhere from the pool, which you taught me. A lot of the rigs are located in China to actually mine coins. So okay, so now it's going to be all over the world. So there's China controls Bitcoin, then China bans Bitcoin. Bitcoin's bad for the environment. Yet China is cracking down on miners, which use coal, so it's going to go elsewhere. It's like if you actually play this thing through, right? But miners moving out of China is a great thing for Bitcoin in the long run, as long as it doesn't get concentrated in some other country. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, the China FUD, I don't understand it either because I don't think anything changed with China's position. As far as I know, like literally nothing has changed. People are like, oh, they're going to enforce this, they're going to enforce that. No new law has been passed, nothing changed. So I don't get it. I think seriously, after this conversation that we're having, I just think it was a long squeeze. I don't know if this thing exists. I'm just taking the short squeeze and flipping it. But basically, a hedge fund could make a lot of money. I think it's pretty easy to spot that it was like getting overheated. I'm pretty sure that the same thing happened. Like, remember when Libra came out and we went from like whatever it was, 6,000 to 13,000, and then it like crashed back. I just think it's like it's very, very hard to predict the day to day. That's why I'm saying like this whole technical analysis thing. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying I don't know that it's a good investment of someone's energy because like here, I'll give you an example. Let's say we get to 100,000. You know, do you sell? Do you not sell? I mean, I think the idea is like you and I spoke privately several times. I think the decision to sell has more to do with the lifestyle that somebody wants and the amount of Bitcoin they hold and the amount of like you know how much risk they want to take on in terms of being able to sleep at night. It has nothing to do with models of technical analysis, and so it's the same stuff here where. Yeah, I just think it's very good. Longs got squeezed, the leverage got flushed out of the system. And now we just continue going up. And by the way, this will prevent people from taking so much leverage going forward
I
because
hope so.
I heard through the grapevine, I have no data to, you know, it's purely like speculation, but that many serious big people got liquidated. Not small retail investors, which also happened, but there's some big, you know, people that got burned. And so hopefully it will just show people, oh yeah, you could have a 50-something% drop in like a couple of weeks, even in a bull market. And so I think that's healthy. Even when people build their models going forward, now they'll have to account for what happened now. Just like in March 2020, right? With COVID, when the markets crashed, I think it was very good for Bitcoin. I think without COVID, first of all, without COVID, we wouldn't be at the current price because the governments wouldn't have printed so much money. But also without COVID and the crash that happened, I think it would have taken longer to reach, like regardless of the money, just because it was like a new thing.
Yeah, so it's interesting these excuse me that you say this because there was this remember the 4chan channel, the insider that before
Yeah,
the
that's
crash said that they would
Do you think the date could be spoofed? For those of you who don't know, there was a screenshot of 4chan of someone who predicted exactly when the crash will happen.
But actually, not just a screenshot. You can go to the website. You can go to the URL. So they would have to spoof and go in and change all the date stamps. I don't think so. There was this thing afterwards that said, "Oh, what?"
We'll put it in the show notes because it's one of the things, you know, I'm very skeptical, and this was just like, oh my God, if you can change, if you can backdate something, then it's not a problem. But if you cannot backdate something,
it called the bottom of 30. It said they were trying to get a major player out and liquidate them. And on top of this, I know again TA, but there's this thing called the Wyckoff distribution. This guy Wyckoff was in the 1890s, created this pattern. So not created, but observed the pattern that the whales or big players do to essentially take the money from the plebes, the rest of us. and it played out exactly to that pattern. Exactly to that pattern. It's, someone, fool me once, shame on me, or shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. So now we won't get fooled. Somebody will do something else, but these markets will be manipulated somehow, some way. But what's not going to be manipulated is Bitcoin is not going to be stopped. You just cannot stop it. It's reach escape velocity. And once you look into it, like the best example of this is Ray Dalio. One, he's extremely well respected. Two, I mean, he's great. But a few months ago, when the bull run was starting in the beginning of 2021, he came out on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, look, I don't get this Bitcoin thing. There's gonna be something better in tech. Something always better comes later." And help explain to me. And people started, responding, and lo and behold, he's the headliner speaker of Consensus, talking about how he would rather hold Bitcoin than bonds. I mean, holy crap, 0 to 60 in 3 months. But credit to him, right? He's kind of the old dog, but he's a powerful old dog. I mean, from an investment perspective, I look up to him in many ways. I mean, he's very, very astute. They clearly can't argue with his success. And now all the smart people, once they open their minds enough to be open to learning, right? To be open to understanding a new paradigm, it's like that's it. Once you're willing to learn, you cannot see a different case for Bitcoin.
Yeah, and it comes in more and more forms, like the bullish case for Bitcoin just comes in more and more forms. And I think no matter what your interest is, you can, no matter how you approach Bitcoin, it's just a matter of time and depth before you understand how powerful it is. For example, today I understood for the first time, I think it was Chamat's idea of like schmuck insurance, how Bitcoin is schmuck insurance. And I never understood what does he mean. So check this out. So today I learned that Hong Kong in after World War II had the GDP per capita of an African country. And the only reason why they were able to grow so phenomenally that now Hong Kong has a higher GDP per capita than the UK is because it was part of the British Empire. And they appointed like a guy to manage Hong Kong. And he was a kind of a libertarian. And he was like, okay, I'm limiting the amount of taxes, right? And that's it. And basically my job is to like prevent government intervention. And he was the governor. And because it wasn't a democracy, it was a totalitarian regime. It was part of the British Empire, right? So if it were a democracy, very quickly somebody would have run on the platform of like, I will give you like social services, or I will give you like whatever that is that you collect taxes for, and people would have voted for him because like he could have promised things. And so it's the schmuck insurance is not, you don't have to believe that the people in government are bad. All you have to believe is that people who vote are uninformed about the long-term consequences of things, and they prefer the short term. And this has been proven again and again and again in so many, like the marshmallow experiment, so many experiments, like kids act like this and adults act like this, and this is one of the most widely documented phenomena. Now, democracy is a great thing, right? Like it's the best form, it's the worst form of government except for all the others. So I'm not against democracy, but what Bitcoin gives you is an insurance against, you know, people voting for stupid policies. And that's such a powerful thing. And again, until, you know, when there was a gold standard, you had borders, which were capital controls. And then afterwards, whenever you have something like the European Union, where you have a free flow of money, it basically forces all of the countries that are members of this union to adopt the same taxation. Like pretty much the taxation all over Europe is the same. So it's really, really hard for a country to have both low taxes and free trade and stuff. And Bitcoin allows that. So it's such a powerful thing that I don't care about these short-term things. Now, I wish I had more money to buy the dip. But then again, part of me says, I even don't wish that, because I don't know, we could go to 20 tomorrow. Like we could go to 20,000 if the short squeeze continues and the long squeeze continues and hedge funds continue hammering it. There's no reason why we should stop at 30. But all I know is that 3 years from now, because it's just such a better technology and so powerful, it's going to be like orders of magnitude
I
bigger.
have some limit buys put on at 26.5. So in case it dips, I'm oh man, am I there waiting with eager arms?
Yeah.
Come to Papa, Bitcoin. Come to Papa. I
But what
bet
do you
if
think
we if
about this democracy thing? It's very interesting to me.
yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, in light the latest news of the aliens, we kind of need a inter-country currency to take us to the promised land of these UFO beings that have been visiting us. Apparently,
Yeah.
that's kind of crazy. I know it's a tangent, but we always make fun of Area 51, the government aliens, and then it was all true. It was all freaking
It's
true.
not that it's true that it's aliens. It's just like we don't know what these things are.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like
Um,
you told me that Avi Cohen, the Harvard astrophysicist, was a disc that's a football field long and a couple inches wide and just reflects the sun and is a sail. But yeah, sure. When clearly none of us made it, and it's like flying a couple of galaxies or whatever, a couple of light years away, we saw this thing.
and then another thing about Elon Musk, somebody said to me at work something really interesting today, that he has gotten in trouble in the past for putting things on Twitter, right? So
When
what
he said they're going to take Tesla private and the stock price went up, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm just kidding," and then
or he's like, I think the stock price is too expensive. You know, when he tweets those, it's crazy. But so imagine you want to accumulate Bitcoin, right? And then you have a bunch of tweets in the past where you've spoken about Bitcoin. And so you're afraid that the SEC is going to say, hey, you bought Bitcoin and then you announced it and now you made like a couple of $1 billion. What's the best way to
crash it.
insulate yourself against it? Oh, to talk about like Dogecoin, talk about like, I'm working with Dogecoin developers, basically have the line of defense when the SEC asks you questions. You're like, oh no, Twitter, I'm just joking on Twitter. Look at all these other tweets. There were complete stupidities. So you can't hold me accountable, for that once. So that actually makes sense to me. Because like, just think about it. If you were, about to get in trouble, and then like you could prevent this trouble by just like tweeting some stupid stuff, you're already the richest man in the world. It's not like, a stupid tweet will like ruin your reputation. You're building super valuable companies. So why not tweet stupid stuff? Because he clearly understands that some of these things that he tweets are wrong. Like there's no Dogecoin developers, right? That's clearly, he knows that what he's writing there is not true. So either he's doing it as a joke or he's doing it like to make some kind of point. If he actually owns a lot of Doge and says that, that's a recipe for him to get in trouble with the SEC. So like, it kind of makes sense to me what he did. He never wrote anything bad about Bitcoin. He just said, I'm going to stop accepting it as Tesla because like, I bet nobody bought a Tesla with Bitcoin. So like,
I think it was one.
What?
I think there was one. By the way, the bit about Dogecoin developers, that's actually true. He called me. We chatted for about half an hour, and we decided to develop Shibu Itsu, whatever the hell the other one is.
Yeah, instead of the Lightning Network, you can start the Bark Network.
The Bark Network. I love it.
All capital B, capital I, capital R.
The louder, the better.
Yeah.
Bark. Better assets, roaring kites. I don't know. What's the K? Roaring kilos. Anyway, so I think we've kind of, I don't know. There's nothing else I think we can really say that hasn't been said out there. There are, many good podcasts and people look at, again, Nick Carter's good. Raul Paul, Kathy Wood, Michael Saylor, obviously the chat of all chats. There's just Willie Woo on Twitter and on their, respective publications. I don't know. I think we should just wrap it and leave it with our listeners with, we're actually more excited about Bitcoin than ever. To me, this is an incredible stress test, that Bitcoin has just passed. And it's we don't know when, probably a couple of weeks maybe, but it will rock it up. And when it goes. After this, it's gonna go. It's gonna go hard. It has to go hard because nothing else stopping it. It passed the test. It didn't, it was dealt some blows and it didn't, bent over, sucked some more wind, got back up and, marched on.
Yeah, like imagine, I just want to, again, we're talking about open source. It's very counterintuitive because like the whole open source phenomenon, right, is like, we were never able to make money from it. But imagine you have an operating system. Imagine you had like Unix that's open source, right? And then like Apple comes, no, it's not a good example because Apple is built on top of Unix, but like IBM comes with OS2, some operating system, and says Linux has security flaws and this and that, and like some hackers hacked Unix in a pipeline and shut the pipeline down, and then people are like, standing in gas stations, to fill up gas, and you have Wall Street Journal articles that say Unix sucks because like, you can't give it to underprivileged, I don't know, like a bunch of, and then suddenly 1 year later, the Unix market share is still as big as it was before. That's a huge, 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 huge medal of honor, and it's a huge attribute that Unix has as an open source operating system. So that's Bitcoin, right? So it's like the more you attack it, if it survives, and again, there's no reason that I can see that it wouldn't survive, again, unless there's a hack on Bitcoin, on the Bitcoin blockchain itself. But anything else, I just like think it makes it stronger. And the price chart is a feature of Bitcoin. Like forever now, when people look at the price history of Bitcoin, they will see a 50% drop. And I think that's a good feature to have just going forward. It will prevent leverage. So that's my position. I have no idea what will happen 2 weeks from now. I really don't like, it could really go down, go up, but I think I have a pretty good idea what will happen 3 years from now, which is
powerful,
much, much higher.
Powerful last words. So look, this is a shorter episode for our listeners. The takeaway is, guys, it's inevitable. As Elon said, in retrospect, it was inevitable. And so if you're not in yet, this is an incredible time to buy. Don't worry.
Not investment advice, entertainment.
Not investment advice, but yeah, right. Even if it goes down a little bit, not investment advice. You guys do you guys, we do us. We always do what we say we do. I told you where my limit is. And if I had a little bit more money, I'd buy at 30 and 32 and 33. It's the bull case for Bitcoin as a technology. When I hear this, is not a get rich quick scheme, as a technology, as a source for good in the world, is just the TAM, the total addressable market here, is literally everything. Well, will it reach it? Probably not.
Not even if it's everything, just take the store of value. It's like hundreds of trillions of dollars, several hundred trillions of dollars. So a lot. By the way, Alex, I will see you in Miami in a week or so, right?
I will see you. We should do it in person. We should do one of these pods in person.
We'll do one of these pods in person. We're looking forward to meeting everybody who will be at Bitcoin 2021 in Miami. I will be there with OK Coin. And
I will be there with Hardcore Finance Podcast. And so if anybody wants an interview, come say hi. We'll be doing podcasts with a lot of people there at the conference. I have a lot of good guests lined up, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thank you all and have a wonderful evening.
Have a wonderful evening.